Everybody, and welcome to the FL Solidity team call. My name's Marisa Maggio. Super excited to be on with you guys today, as we do have a very special guest, somebody right within the group, and that is near and dear to my heart, and truly just works so hard day in and day out, doesn't make excuses, goes through the same pains that we all do, the bumps in the road, so to say, in life, and always moves forward. This is somebody who the first time I met her, she inspired me because we went from having conversations about how can I help 10 families to how can I help 15 families to how can I help 20 families to now I'm helping 60 plus families. So guys, it just goes to show over time, this really is a snowball effect business. The longer you roll that snowball up the hill, it might take time. We get it. But at the end of the day, when you're helping 60 families a month, you're in a pretty good place. Now, with all that being said, Afro, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I can't thank you enough for being on with us today. Super excited. Um, and for those people on the call after, those couple of people that might not have had the chance to kind of hear from you or hear your background, if you don't mind, give us a quick background, Afro. Who are you? What were you doing before, Family First Life, and what kind of got you involved into the business?
So before this, I used to work at a bank. I used to be in banking. At the same time, I was going in nursing school, graduated nursing, started being a nurse, and then I used to have a client at the bank that used to always offer me to work for FFL. I was doing what I thought back then was pretty well. So I always ignored. I got on a few Zooms here and there, but it never really caught my. I wasn't interested because I was never in sales prior, and just the whole commission thing super turned me off. It was not my thing. I was always very alarmed by commission and salespeople. And one day I just decided to, because I started doing real estate before this, I'd at least started the class, and I kind of wanted to do my own thing because I was sick and tired of working 24 hours with no sleep and me bringing home like $3,000-4,000 a month, working crazy schedules. So I just decided to dive in one day.
Love it. And when you come from that background, it's like, you're in banking, you're in nursing school. It's not confusing that it's fair to say that you're a self-motivated individual.
Absolutely. It's always been, I've
100%.
always worked at least like two jobs just to be able to, make it and things like that. So that was one thing.
I love it. Well, once you come into a commissions-based sales position and you realize what commissions can do for you, you kind of take that bias out at times. So I'm happy to have you on with us, Afro, and thanks for sharing that background.
Thank you
Now,
for
just to
having
kind
me.
of course. And just to kind of jump into the nitty gritty, because everybody always talks about leads. Now, before we jump into that, I think it's really important that you can have a million leads. You could have every lead from every person on this call. And if you don't work, it doesn't matter, right? Like if I have no schedule and every person on this call just sent me their leads, like it doesn't matter because I don't work, right? So Afro, talk to us a little bit about your schedule. From what that looks like on a personal level of getting your personal priorities done, but also what that looks like on a work level of getting your work priorities done.
I'm very specific about my schedule. I've always been an early bird. And right as of right now, I'm still trying my best to stay as consistent as possible. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I do pretty much have the same schedule. I wake up in the morning. I usually go to the gym. I do my regular workouts. Then I spend a little bit of time in the sauna. I journal in there just to keep my mind right for the day. I usually go see my mom's in the morning just to say hi to her. That's usually my morning routine. And I usually just literally walk in and out. I give her a hug and a kiss. She complains that I don't spend time with her and I leave. But for me, that kind of just makes my day, just fulfills me. And then I get ready. I usually pray and journal in the morning. And by around 8:45-ish, at least 9 a.m. sharp, I'm in front of my computer. I take care of a couple emails and I start dialing right after. My schedule starts for dialing at 9 a.m. sharp. And then I usually have my last booked appointment for 7 p.m. But depending on the day, obviously, we always dial past that.
Absolutely. And if you're in the office, Afro, and you're like, okay, like I'm not having a good day, or you're in front of your computer at your house and you're like, I'm not having a good day. Like I don't even want to call these 80 new leads that I just had come in. Like what allows you to go from I don't want to do it to I'm doing it?
Oof, that would be today. Um, God knows. Yeah, so just like I talked in my podcast, I feel like your mentality is your tonality on the phone, and how you're feeling is obviously how you present and how you sell, because at the end of the day, we're humans. As of me personally, I it's all mindset. So if I need to walk away, sometimes I will either leave Schmidt's office and just go on a quick drive, and you'll be like, "Where are you going?" Working part-time, and I will literally just drive to the coffee shop, get coffee, breathe, and just drive back, listen, blast music to God knows whatever I play, and, drive back. But then I know that once I'm back, it's dial time. I put my phones aside. I used to spend a lot of time, on, like, scrolling through social media. If I was having a hard time dialing, I would just get on Instagram and just scroll through, watch videos, but I realized that all those little things add up. So lately, even in the mornings, I try not to start my day with social media anymore. So I'll just try to start with a podcast or, like, a journaling or the Bible app, and then while I'm dialing, I put everything on D&D. My family knows, if I'm dialing and it's not an emergency, all the family group chats do not get responded to. And they understand that now, God forbid anything does happen, they know to obviously reach out. But I'm very, very consistent. Like once we're dialing, we're dialing. And now I have appointments. I did just get a dialer, Heather, to answer your question. This week has been my first week, and I have appointments now. So I feel like that holds me accountable, but I've never had a problem being accountable. Like I'm always dialing, and from 9 to 7 p.m. every day, we're dialing.
Absolutely. And you said a lot of good stuff there. It's like, guys, if you don't have a morning routine at all, it's probably impacting you more than you can even see. You implement those small things like Aphrodite just said, from whether it's the gym, hitting the sauna, journal, going by mom's house saying hi. I love that, by the way. I think that's a great touch to your day. Praying, the Bible app. I also use the Bible app, and it just really helps me understand things a lot clearer for me. So like whatever it is for you guys, like do that. And then I love how after I asked you, like, what do you do when you're having one of those days? Because like you could really easy close your computer and just be like, all right, well, I'm done for the day, right? Like, because it's you're self-employed. But we all have a choice there, guys. And it's like every time that I close the computer, you close the computer, anyone closes the computer versus just working through it, you're just reconditioning your brain to think like that's okay to do. And what I do too is kind of like sometimes you just gotta walk away for a minute. You grab that coffee, you walk out of wherever you're walking out of with the coffee, and you have a different mindset if you can allow yourself to get there, right? So like whether you got to bump a jam in the car, whatever it is, like, but get off track to get back on track. It sounds like what you're saying. And then one thing I will absolutely give you is like consistency. Like I don't think I've ever seen somebody actually show up the way that you show up and say you do exactly what you say you're going to do. You don't sugarcoat it. If it's going to be a 7 to 3 day because of ABC, like that's you're just saying it like it is. So that's why I'm really excited to have you on today with us. Now, we talked about mindset. We talked about kind of how you get your day started. We talked about what you were doing in the past. Talk to us a little bit about leads. Now, this is where before, guys, everybody's like, okay, like Aphrodite helped over 60 families last month for the first time, and there's going to be a lot more times to come. But guys, it's like, it's not just her leads. Like, I want to be really clear on that. Like, me and Aphrodite could have had the same leads last month, and maybe I would have only helped 10 families. Just depends on, like she said, mentality is tonality. It's going to depend on my mindset, what I'm doing and what I'm not doing, right? So, Afro, with that being said, talk to us a little bit about your leads, what that flow looks like, and kind of what your spend looks like.
Okay, I'm running veteran leads, mostly, and they're all final expense. I have been trying to implement IULs a little bit as I can if they're healthy. I don't really get too lucky because my clients are a little bit older. So I'm usually on a monthly basis, to be exact, I'm spending about $10,500 a month. Um, yeah.
And you're multiplying that by at least 5,
hmm
maybe
Yes.
6.
I didn't know if I was allowed to like spit out numbers, so I didn't. Okay.
No,
I'll
I'm
let
with
you
you. No,
take over.
you're good. You're
Okay.
good. Perfect. So it's like, if someone tells me I can spend 10 to get 6, I just, I mean, I can spend 10 to get 60. Like, I just have to work. I'm just going to work. So it's like, it doesn't seem like you were confused there, Afro. And before you were issuing out 60 families in a month, do you feel like you've increased your lead spend since then to now?
So I started at 200 a day and now I'm at 300. So yes, I did by a little bit. Um, but not really. I feel like it was more me. I became more consistent. It became more personal. I was more motivated and obviously hungry and just needed to like prove to myself that I needed to be able to produce that much. So I just kind of locked in a little more, I feel like, to be honest.
I love that. And I think that's huge because the thing is like when it becomes personal, like to you, like you are not trying to prove me wrong, you're not trying to prove anybody, but you're trying to prove yourself wrong or right.
Literally.
Like that's when things start changing. And it's fun and it's exciting to see, but it also just shows you like we put caps and lids on ourselves sometimes. And then like there's moments that we have breakthrough moments, and it's like we got to recognize those. So I love seeing it. And I love that response. It became more personal. So just to kind of role play, so just like Aphrodite said, she's working predominantly veteran final expense leads. Now, before we jump into this role play, guys, Aphrodite, you've worked regular final expense leads. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Is it fair to say that the only difference between these leads that you're working now and a regular final expense lead is that on the regular final expense leads, you simply just don't know if the person is going to be a veteran or not?
Exactly. So instead of saying, hey, I'm getting back to you from, the veteran lead that you filled out, I usually just say the benefits office. It's the only thing that would change within the script.
All right, perfect. And then Afro, for everybody that's on this call right now thinking like, okay, like I know Aphrodite. I've seen when Afro was helping 30 and 40 families and now she's helping 60. Let's run through a role play because I shared this with you earlier. I was on the phone with Trey Honeycutt, and guys, Trey is not personally producing, so this is not a knock to Trey. This is actually like kudos to Trey and kudos to Aphrodite. So Trey was like, I ran some leads this past month. Now he's like, I issued out like 8,000. He was not bragging. We were talking. Okay. And he said to me, it's funny because the 8 leads that I wrote, I used Aphrodite's script verbatim. And anytime that I swayed away from it, I didn't help the family. And I'm a veteran, right? Like, and I'm like, Trey, like, and he's like, no, like her script's fire. So it's like, we want to hear it. So with that being said, Afro, if you don't mind role playing a script with me, acting truly like I'm one of your leads, and we'll just walk right through it
Okay.
whenever you're ready.
Okay. Are we doing the full script?
We're
How
gonna do the
far?
whole script, Kim.
Oh, baby. Okay. All right. Should I take my script out? I'm joking. All right. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, Marissa.
Yep.
Hey, Marissa. This is Aphrodite. I was just getting back to you here in regards to the request that you had submitted for the new life insurance options for veterans. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have that you served in the Air Force. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you for your service. How long did you serve for?
About 5 years.
Thank you for your service. That's massive. And I have your birthday here as 1195. Is that correct?
Yes.
Beautiful. And I have here that you live in Georgia and that you're happily married.
Yes.
Awesome. And I usually ask them, how long have you been married for?
20 years.
Wow, that's a long time. I usually always make a joke. Sometimes they'll be like 50. I'm like, wow, you've been married for half a century. I need all the secret.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, perfect. So my name's Aphrodite. I'm just the veteran consultant that's been assigned to you. My job is super simple. I'm just the one that's going to figure out if the VA life or the private sector is the best option for you and your family. Does that make sense?
It does.
Perfect. And I usually say, I always send them my credentials. With that being said, I do have to stay compliant with the VA here. Is this a cell phone number or a landline? Do you receive text messages on here?
Yeah, it's my cell phone.
Okay, perfect. With that, I'm going to text you through my personal cell phone number, my credentials. That's going to include my state license of Division of Insurance, my photo ID, just so that way you know who you're speaking with, and a sheet with all of the carriers that we're contracted to work with. The most important thing on there is my state license number, just so this way you know you're speaking to an active and licensed professional appointed to you. Does that make sense?
Yes, I got it.
I text it over to them and I never usually proceed unless they have me verified. Reason being is when time comes for them to give you personal information like social and banking, I'll usually pull it up. Well, that's why you reviewed all of my credentials when we first got started. And I make them look at it. I always have them read back my license number. Once they do, I usually say, okay, most important thing on there is my license number, and this is for your records. Because anything going forward, you will have my contact information, and I will be the person that you'll be contacting directly. You don't have to call the insurance carriers. And I'm
Got
like,
it.
once you have me fully verified, then I'll be able to legally proceed. I always use that line.
All right, and I have your number here as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Perfect. And then I usually just go into my script. So next I will usually say, all right, so these programs are designed to be affordable for veterans. So first I usually spend a quick minute just going over your financial situation, just so I can make sure that everything's affordable and within your budget, because my job is to work with you, not against you. From there, I typically spend a quick minute just going over some basic health questions, just to help me navigate which cares we can go with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Couple discount questions here, Marissa. Are you currently a smoker or non-smoker?
Non-smoker.
Perfect. And do you currently have a disability rating through the VA?
No.
Perfect. And God forbid something were to happen to you, who would be the person picking up all the pieces?
My husband.
Okay, and what is your husband's name, just so I'm not rude?
We're gonna speak it into Rami. We're gonna speak it into existence.
Rami, sign number one. All right. With that being said, I just want to let you know, what would it look like for Rami, God forbid something were to happen to you emotionally and financially?
I mean, we're a 50-50 household income, so it wouldn't look good.
Okay, so it would affect him financially and obviously emotionally. You guys have been married 20 years, so it would be difficult.
Right.
Okay, so I'm assuming like most veterans, you just wanted to make sure that God forbid something were to happen to you, your significant other is not stuck with that financial burden. So your goal is to eliminate that from them, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. And have you ever thought about if you want to be buried or cremated?
Buried.
Okay, and I usually just tell them what burial comes with. I explain that they do get a plot for free at a VA cemetery. That includes a pin, a certificate, the blank shots from the VA for free. However, they do have to cover the opening, the closing, and the services of the funeral home. Now, is that something that they would be able to cover out of pocket, or do you have anything in place that would offset those costs, such as an existing policy, 401ks, or any significant savings?
I do have a small life insurance policy.
Okay, and how much do you currently have?
It's only for 5,000.
Okay, burial is about 10 to 15 right now. So what we'll do today is I will look into options to strengthen your position, just so we can make sure that Rami obviously will not have a financial burden when you pass away.
Okay.
All right, perfect. And now, what is your health like? And I usually go through all the health questions. I don't know if you want to go through all that.
No, I see my doctor regularly. I don't take any medications.
All right, perfect. And what is typically left over at the end of the month after all the bills are paid? Just as a disposable income, just a ballpark, so I can make sure that obviously I'm working with you, not against you.
On my end, I mean, probably about $500 a month at least.
Okay, perfect. That's typically most of my veterans have. All right, and the reason I ask all these health questions, not to be invasive of your health or your financial situation, but obviously with life insurance, is not as easy as going to your local grocery store where you see something you like and you buy it. With this kind of thing, it's something you have to get qualified for it. You can't just purchase life insurance. First, how I'm going to help you is the carriers will be looking at what's called your Medical Information Bureau. Have you ever heard of that before?
I haven't.
Okay, just to sum it up, it's just a prescription check. over the last few years or so. How I'm going to help you is I'm going to type in all of your basic information here into my state system. This is going to generate what carriers I can or cannot go with based on your age and your health specifically. Whoever comes back the cheapest, I'll give you your options. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then I usually just give them gold, silver, and bronze. I do the shopping around. Do you want me to go into like detail for that?
I know you probably like, really, Marisa, like, can you hit us with the bronze, silver, gold?
Go over it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I kind of already know like their disposable income. So I'll be like, all right, how much you know about life insurance, if anything at all?
I just know that there's one that's permanent and then there's the term one. I don't want that one. I had one like that and it expired.
Okay. So with life insurance, there's three different types. You have accidental, term, and whole life. Accidental, you find it like a bank or credit union. It sounds awesome. They give you a cool amount. However, it only pays out in case of an accidental death. Chances of that paying out are almost next to nothing. And then you have term. Term is usually good for 10, 20, or 30 years, and then it expires. It's usually good to have it for a mortgage or a young student who has huge loans. Anything over the age of 50, you should have what's called a whole life policy. Now, Marissa, do you have a paper and a pen nearby? I can have you jot down a few things in regards to what the plan comes with.
Yeah, I have one right here.
All right, beautiful. The first thing I'm going to have you write down is what's called permanent coverage. That just means that the policy will never expire on you. It expires when you expire. So it's not if
Uh,
it pays out, it's when it pays out. It does build cash value. So any of the premiums you put into it, it's like a forced savings account. You won't lose any of the money you put into it. So you always get that back. It also comes with what's called immediate coverage. And this is the most important thing. That just means that as soon as we get you approved, God forbid, you make your first payment, anything were to happen the next day, you would receive the entire face value. There's no 1 or 2 year waiting period like most carriers in VA Life require. Super important.
got it.
Um, it also comes with double accidental. So if you were to pass away of an accidental death, the policy would double.
Okay.
Does all of that make sense? Do you have any questions? And if you need me to slow down, tell me so because I do this 15 times a day. I always make
Nope,
that
I
joke.
got it all. It makes sense.
Okay, beautiful. Now on that piece of paper, I'm going to have you write down gold, silver, and bronze.
All right.
Gold is going to be the max amount that you can apply for here in the state of Georgia. Not typically recommended, but I am legally required to show you all of your options.
Okay.
Silver is typically what most of my veterans go with, just because it covers the entire funeral and leaves a little bit behind in case of future inflation. And bronze is going to be just your basic burial. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I usually give them the options. I'll usually say 30, 20, 10, and whatever the premium will be. And usually I say very important. Now, out of these three options, if you were to qualify, since nothing is guaranteed, it's up to the carrier to see if they want to approve you. But if we were able to get you approved, which one of these three options would make the most sense for you that's comfortable and affordable on a monthly basis to leave for Rami?
You said, well, most veterans do the silver one, right?
Correct.
Okay, I'll go with that one.
Okay, does the silver make sense for you and is it comfortable for you on a monthly basis? Because the most important policy is the one that's actually going to be there when you need it the most.
Yeah, I know that's definitely doable, price wise.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and we'll submit an application for coverage. It's going to take about 5 minutes since we're already almost done. I'm just going to need Rami's full legal name. Um, and then I usually ask them how tall they are, how much they weigh, and I usually just go straight into the social after that, just like the
Perfect.
application.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. That was awesome. And guys, there were so many different word tracks that if even you pick up one of those today that you're not using, like start using it. Like when you're like, I'm legally required to show you the gold, right? The silver is what
Thank you.
most of my veterans do, right? And the bronze is going to just cover your basic burial. Guys, she's making it very easy. She's making it more like a concept of like, this is what it does. Because at the end of the day, guys, that's what we need to know is when that day comes, what is it going to do for my family, right? Like, how much is it? Yep, all that stuff's important, but what is it going to do? right? And if Aphrodite doesn't pull that out, or you don't, or I don't, it's not building value for the client. Um, Also, making sure that even in those uncomfortable moments, like Afro, have you ever had people that are like, they're like, yeah, got it, like almost cutting you off everything you say
Oh yeah,
all the
100%.
time, all the time, right? And it's like you still have them write down the things that you would have them write down. Would that be fair?
Oh yeah, and
Because
if they rush, I usually say, if you, I stole this line, but I usually say, if I told you to give me $1,000 for this iPhone, you wouldn't just pay up $1,000, would you? And they're like, why would I? And I'm like, exactly. But if I told you could FaceTime your kids that live 12 hours away every single day and share your location with them because you're older, you would pay it, right? They're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
love it, love it, love it. And like you're gonna get those people that are gonna be like in a rush, like to go nowhere, guys. It's like if they're on the phone with you, they're on the phone with you. Like don't get upset or nervous or like I need to just give them the quote. Like no, you need to go through your process every single time the way it's supposed to be done. Because I know there's times I skip steps in my own script and it's like I look back and I'm like, oh, I didn't close it. Well, you didn't close it because you skipped your own steps. Like follow the script, right? um Also how you talked about in the beginning, like you're just going to help me strengthen my position. You weren't working against my life insurance policy, you were working with my life insurance policy, which was cool. And also small, like again, word tracks, guys. This is what sells. Like when she said, so it's permanent coverage, so it's not a matter of if it pays out, it's a matter of when it pays out. Like that's an extremely powerful line, guys. Like you have to realize there's a lot of people out there that don't explain the difference of term and whole life. You ever quote somebody Aphrodite for like 25 grand and they're like, well, I just talked to somebody and they told me for 25,000 it was going to be $30 and they're like 80. And you're like, what?
Yeah, it's an
Like,
accidental.
right. You got to just help them kind of take a step back and walk back into it. But when we're saying these things, it's helping them understand. Even when Aphrodite said, well, how much do you know about life insurance, right? She broke down very quickly. There's three main types, talked about the credit union and the bank, which I love because everybody has $1 million through the bank, which I think is, immaculate. It's never going to pay out, etc. But guys, it's important to know it's permanently there. So I know I just learned a lot from that. I hope everybody else did. I know everybody else did. And guys, it's like if you're following a script and you especially doing telesales, even in home, to a point, it's all script and word tracks. If you're doing that and you're not getting results, you need to get with somebody that is getting results because it might be a matter of tonality. Afro, you ever have a bad day and you're like, oh well, like like you're on the phone, you're getting hung up on, and you're like, oh, this is how it's gonna go today.
Oh
Like
yeah.
because you sound off, right? Like we're people. But at the same time, those small things that Aphrodite says she does, such as in the morning, what her routine looks like. If during the day she feels offbeat, she gets in the car, grabs a coffee, runs an errand, whatever it might be, to get herself back in sync. Whatever that is for you, you got to dig it out, and you got to figure out, essentially where you're going from there. But Afro, you killed that. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself, ask.
There are several questions in the chat.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have to find mine. Hold on.
All right. Let's see. Okay, I
Trying
got
to
you
like
guys in the chat.
see the
Okay,
chat.
thank you.
All right, so let's see.
Oh, I had one.
Go for
Afro. I love your
Yes.
script. I've adapted your script to mine, and I did go from one page to two because of yours, but that's because I enlarged it. So I appreciate you. And now
You're
I'm going to go
welcome.
back and listen to this and add a few more things. But question. If they're married, do you ever make the wife and husband be there together?
Oh, 1,000,000%. So one of the first questions I ask is, if they say, "Oh yeah, we've been married for whatever years," I always say, "Okay," and I usually would say, "Okay, and is Rami home?" And she would be like, "Yes, he is." I'd be like, "Okay, perfect." Only reason I ask is obviously I'm trying to be respectful of your 20-year marriage. However, I find with most veterans, they usually need their significant other to be there with them to make a decision. Or I usually say, "Are you like most veterans? Do you make decisions on your own?" Or do you need your significant other to be there present with you in order to go over these options? If they ever give me any kind of hesitation, I usually say, hey, just so we could save all three of us some time. What I can do is I can squeeze into my schedule. What time are you guys both typically home? I don't even give them any quotes if they tell me I would need to go over this over with my wife. I just don't. Because at the end, I can be like, okay, thanks for the quotes. Now I need to go over this with my significant other.
Right. And the probability of getting that person back on the phone is just
High
shot
number.
down significantly. Right. I love that. And all right, there's a couple questions here. So in terms of the leads, guys, get directly with your upline. It is a system. It's outside of the ILC. If they're not familiar, you can reach out directly to me, and I'd be able to help you out if that's what you're wanting to do. Question in the chat: what are you doing in between your appointments if you're getting no-showed?
I dial all my new leads. I'm consistently dialing.
You're just going from 9 to 7. It's like if my appointment doesn't answer, I'm just going to the next lead.
I'm dialing my new leads. Even between my appointments, like if I get new leads, I'll dial my lead, then I'll go back to my appointments and the other way around.
Because you don't know if the appointment's going to be there. Is that fair?
Exactly.
Got it. And Viviana asked, how long did it take you to get where you are now in terms of your lead spend?
2 months. I've only been doing this since we got back from the convention.
Right, right. And maybe let me rephrase that. When you first got started, Afro, what did your lead spend look like? And how did you allow yourself to get to that next level of lead spend, so to say?
Oh, when I first started telesales in general. Oh my
Or just
God.
started in the business?
Oh, oof. I was probably spending like $500 a week, maybe.
And let's just
Now
say,
I
I'm
spend
gonna pause
300
you
a
real
day.
quick. Because I was gonna say, because now you're spending like 2 a week, right? 2,000 a week, give take, right? When you were originally investing that 500 into those leads, let's just say your skill set wasn't necessarily where it is today. Is that fair? Because mine wasn't when I got started, right?
Of course.
So over time, you right now 3 policies. Let's just say you for the sake of this conversation, you were averaging about 2 to 5 policies a week. How were you allocating that income to make sure that you were able to get your lead spend up?
Oof. I was literally taking all the policies that I was selling, and I was just putting everything back into the business. If it worked, if it didn't work, I just kept putting it all back into the business.
And guys, some people might be on here like, well, what do you mean if it worked, if it didn't work? Okay, do it first. Like, please pick up a stack of leads of 100 leads. Sit down from 9 to 7, which by the way, guys, like in terms of hours and commitment, that's 10 hours. Like, so we're all on the same page. It's 10 hours. Get 100 leads. I don't care what leads they are. I don't care if they're sticky note leads that you just pulled out of my office. Okay. Get 100 leads. Sit there and dial on them for 10 hours. If you are not helping 2 to 5 families, I don't know. But
There's no way.
bigger than that, right? After like, is that fair? I don't care if you suck. All you have to do is read a script, guys. And I say that with so much love. Like, I was terrible when I began. And you know how I got better? My manager went back to like, this is why we have this 14-page script. And I was like, okay, well, I'm in the house. But guys, they don't know what you're supposed to say. You need to just say it. But in terms of leads, Afro, it seems like you were never confused. When you turn that $500 over, you weren't like, I need to make my car payment. You were like, I need to reinvest back in leads because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to make my car payment next month or the month after, right? Because there's 2 different mindsets on that. I think that that's really important, guys. It's like, if you're not reinvesting back into yourself and your business, it doesn't make sense. And great point. If you don't unmute and like, you're like, oh, I'm dialing and I need help. And you're not unmuting, like, I love you all, but like, you know how I learned telesales and I was in the house for 5 years, 6 years? Like, I learned telesales by listening to other people and letting other people listen to me and correct me. So guys, sometimes we have to just eat a humble sandwich and be like, all right, I might blow this one. It might be awful. It might be the worst call I ever make in my home insurance career, but I'm willing to unmute because there's someone else listening that wants me to get better, that they want to help me get better. And here's what else I can tell you guys is that your upline, whoever brought you in, the company, however, the insurance industry does not make a dime until you do. And I think that that's the beauty of this industry. It's like, we're going to help you get there, but you got to help yourself first. You're not willing to reinvest back into leads. You're not willing to spend 10 hours on the phone. You're not willing to dial the 100 leads. You're not willing to call people 3 times back to back. You're not willing to show up. You're not willing to be consistent at anything that's going to help you. We can't help you either, you know? And like, I say that with so much love, but that's like, truly, if you're on this call and like, I still don't get that, like, then I love you, but you should probably go back to a W-2 job, because this is not going to work for you long term. And I say that with so much love. I've just seen it too much. So Afro, I love that. And I know that when you came in, you've changed your leads a multitude of times, but what you always did have was leads, right? Like, there was never a time you're like, I'm just going to shut off all my leads and because I got to pay the bills. Like, no, like Afro's over there, like, you know, like, hey, like I blinked this week, but I know next week's going to be better. I want to get some new leads. Like, where do you think I should get them from? Like, Afro's out there looking, like, she ain't confused, guys. So it's like, is Aphrodite the only person that's doing this? No, guys, we can point to half this call and be like, hey, but my point is Aphrodite is consistent. She's diligent. We can learn something from everybody. And when we can take a piece of that script, we can take one word track from there that we're going to implement. Like, because like, honestly, I wrote down like so many things, Aphrodite. I'm like, this is great. Like, not if it pays out, when it pays out, like that's going into my, like, I don't say that's great. And people probably love it. So guys, over time, it really is, it's just a power of repetition type of thing. And Afro, going back to when you first got on the phone, like telesales, do you remember we had a couple conversations and you were like, you know, like, I think I should just go back in the field.
I think I'm gonna go torn off my old leads. It's
Right,
like
yeah.
crying. Oh my God.
Right, because it was an adjustment, right? Like, and I was on the other line, like, hey, I might come to Connecticut and tour knocking with you because I went telesales too, and it's freaking me out. Like, guys, you're not gonna wake up good at something. You have to work at it. And it's like, Aphrodite, is it fair to say you manned so many hours into this business and that's why you've mastered that script and that's why you work so well with people?
If it's one thing, because obviously it's always been up and down, even to like recently, I'm very blunt with like my situation and life insurance. Like, I'm not, I don't hide anything, but I feel like one thing that I've always done, even on like the worst months, even like my most broke months, I have always just got on the phone, and I don't care what kind of lead it was. I've always just been consistent, and I have always just grinded and like dialed. That's one thing I've always done. So one way or another, it had to work out, and I had to make it work.
I love it. And you know, there's like quite a few people on the call right now. And this is not only in the Northeast. I'm just going to give the Northeast a quick shout out because we never get a shout out up here in the Northeast. Okay. What I'm going to say is exactly what Aphrodite just said. If we all just work, we're going to just get different results. However, you know, I've been told I'm so many different things because I work all the time. Okay, if you have a schedule, guys, just like anybody else at a W-2 job, you got to show up and you got to go to work. Same thing here. If you follow your schedule, your results are going to be different. If you don't follow your schedule, your results are going to be different. You choose the path. And then with that as well, guys, you have to work. If there's one thing we're good at in the Northeast, it's work. Like, people are like, oh my God, like you guys work all the time. I would rather be critiqued for working and building my business and building my book of business than be critiqued for working 9 to 5 and not feeling fulfilled or challenged in my position. It's like, we should all wake up and feel challenged, right? But at the same time, that's not always going to happen. Guys, just work. Like, that's what, if Aphrodite like could, like, you know, like if we could all just like trademark something here in the Northeast, I think it would be just work. Like, just do your job. And like, I say that with so much love. And so like, one thing we're all really good at up here in the Northeast is just going to work. So I love it. And Aphrodite, anything that you want to close out with at all?
No, if I could just give any advice to anyone, it would just be stick to the script. Obviously schedule. You can't just wake up one morning, get to dialing at 11 a.m., try to dial at 9 a.m. the next, start at 1 p.m. the next, and be consistent with numbers. It's just not going to work. If I just look at it this way, if you can work for someone else and you can do other things to provide and make money for your family, then you should be able to show up for yourself on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, and actually show up and work. Because it's easy to say I'm dialing all day, but if you're scrolling through Instagram 100 times a day, you're really not dialing. So consistency, showing up, and actually proving yourself that you can do it.
I love that. I love the last one, proving to yourself that you can do it.